A games-based lesson means a lesson where many and maybe all the learning and practice of English is in individual games. Gamification of a lesson is different. Individual activities within a gamified lesson may or may not be games, but there is an overall gamification theme that ties a lesson together, and engaging game elements are applied during the course of a lesson. For example, the theme of a lesson might be space exploration, and each child or each team could have a rocket that travels through space, discovering planets and avoiding dangerous monsters or aliens. Gamification themes can be applied to individual lessons, projects, semesters, or even longer periods. My focus in this video and the next one will be on gamifying an individual lesson. Games elements that are often included in a gamified lesson are themes, teams, games characters, special items that can be acquired, problems and puzzles to solve, conflict, games goals, and leaderboards. In my case, my lessons are almost completely games-based. Almost every individual activity in a lesson is a game. So I often don't need to gamify lessons as well. But even so, it is still a lot of fun when I add an overall gamification theme. I used to gamify lessons much more when many of the individual activities in my lessons were not games, and I had a lot of success with this, especially in large classes. Why gamify a lesson? There is no doubt that both video games and more traditional games are highly effective in motivating children to explore and learn new things. And the idea is to apply elements from these games to our classes, so as to achieve a similar level of self-motivation and learning. If you are a more traditional teacher, don't worry. If you prefer to use worksheets and do practice exercises rather than using a lot of individual games in a lesson, you can do whatever activities you would normally do, but still gamify a lesson. The gamification theme of a lesson doesn't need to be complex or take up a lot of time. It could be a simple sports-themed scoring system, or a race around a racetrack. Of course, it is generally more engaging if more games elements are incorporated into the theme, but they don't have to be. There are other reasons to gamify a lesson. If the children are in teams, or if the whole class plays as one big team, the shared experience of trying to achieve game goals together helps children develop social skills and strengthens the sense of community in a class. And one of the most important benefits of gamification is that it can motivate children to take more responsibility for policing their own behavior through peer group control, particularly in larger classes. And I will look at how to achieve this later in this video. Constructivist or behaviorist? In my videos on how children learn, I contrasted constructivism with behaviorism and rejected the behaviorist approach. One problem I have with the way gamification is often applied in the classroom is that it is often both constructivist and behaviorist at the same time, even though I think these two approaches are not really compatible with each other. Their fundamental assumptions about how children learn are different. Gamification is constructivist in that it emphasizes the central role of the child as an active learner, not as somebody who is receiving information from an adult. The aim is for a child to learn through exploration, overcoming achievable challenges, making mistakes and learning from these mistakes, and so construct her own meaningful interpretation of whatever she is learning. This is pure constructivism. Behaviorism focuses on conditioning learning and behavior through extrinsic rewards. And in a gamified classroom, games elements like badges, points, or rankings on leaderboards are often used in a behaviorist way. I think the behaviorist emphasis on conditioning through rewards is very out of step with modern psychological research. There is clear evidence that extrinsic rewards of this kind often have a negative effect on intrinsic motivation. So if we do use rewards, like badges or points, I think we need to understand the research on what kinds of rewards are more or less likely to have a negative effect. Here are some suggestions for how to use points or similar rewards when gamifying a lesson. Task-noncontingent rewards. When we gamify a lesson, I think the rewards and goals that can be gained should not be dependent on doing well in English. Instead, we use what are called task-noncontingent rewards. The rewards are given for the luck of the dice or other game goals, not for doing well in English. Research shows that task-noncontingent rewards have a less detrimental effect on intrinsic motivation than task-contingent rewards. Surprise rewards. Research indicates that expected rewards tend to reduce intrinsic motivation, but surprise rewards don't seem to have this effect. So it helps if points are awarded randomly, not in an expected way. Teams could suddenly discover treasure when doing a class activity, or they could draw a chance card or roll a dice at certain moments in the lesson. Reward the process. With some activities, there is a danger that children will race to finish an activity so as to gain a reward, and not focus enough on the process of learning. Learning is not about finishing or getting a correct answer. It is about going through the process of trying to work things out, and rewards need to reflect this. Game items can be discovered, or points can be gained during the course of an activity, not just at the end. I also think we should avoid rewards that encourage children to rush through a game without processing the content very deeply. How about competition? Gamifying a lesson doesn't necessarily need to be competitive. It usually is competitive, with teams playing against each other. But it is also possible for the whole class to be one big team that is trying to achieve a game goal together. If the gamification is competitive, we need to be careful how we go about it. The issue with competition in the classroom is not just that it emphasizes the extrinsic reward of winning or losing. Competition can also be demotivating for children who are less self-confident or weaker at English, and encourage those who do well to feel that others need to fail in order for them to succeed. This is another reason for making winning or losing dependent on luck, not on English ability. We also need to avoid making a big thing of winning and losing. And it helps if we cheat playfully to support a child or team that is getting left behind. In some of my classes, all teams somehow arrive at more or less equal points at the end of a lesson. With other classes, I don't need to be so careful. Peer group control. If the children are in teams or if they are playing as one big team, having points or some similar game goal provides an effective tool for encouraging the children to cooperate with each other and follow behavior rules. When this works well, it means that much of the pressure to behave comes from other children in the class instead of from us. If a class behavior rule is broken, we simply smile and gradually give points to the other team, or deduct points from the class team until the children stop behaving badly. Instead of us having to say, "Don't crawl under your desk," the aim is for the other children in the team to say, "Don't crawl under your desk." It can be surprising how well this approach works. My personal preference is to deduct points with a puppet or toy animal that acts as a referee. This allows me to have two different relationships with the children. When I am speaking as myself, I am friendly and respectful to the children. But when I am speaking as the puppet or toy animal, I am playfully strict. For example, if the referee is a toy gorilla, when one team starts to shout out in their native language, I pick up a marker with the gorilla, go to the board, and the gorilla gives 1 point to the other team. When the children ask you why, say, "I don't know, ask the gorilla." The children probably smile and ask the gorilla. The gorilla says, "Speak English." And the children probably turn round to each other and say, "Shh, speak English." It is often the more competitive, outward-going children who are probably the first to shout out in their native language, who are also the first to turn round to the other children and say, "Speak English." This technique only works if the children are in teams, and it tends to work better in larger classes. This approach encourages the children to take more responsibility for enforcing class rules, and makes it easier for us to maintain a friendly, caring relationship with the children, but also ensure that class rules are not broken. Peer group control is most effective when the children are fully involved in a lesson. The more fun they are having, the better this kind of approach will work. So it is best if the gamified lesson has many games elements and is as engaging as possible. In the next video, I will look at concrete ideas for gamifying a lesson.